because I think I used to be invisible. So let me explain. So I used to have this problem. I remember one time I was out to dinner with some friends, and the waitress came, and it was really a very busy night. This person's order, she took this person's order, and then she left. Hello? I was convinced I was invisible. But it didn't end there. See, I actually started realizing that everyone in my house actually had a different name than what everybody else thought we were named. So I got this idea, this revelation, when I was watching TV one day. And okay, I admit it, I'm a TV addict. I watch TV a lot. But I was watching TV one day, and my mother comes in and goes, "Oh good, nobody's watching this, I'll shut it off." Hello, am I not here? So I realized that I actually had another name, and that was nobody. And then I started realizing, actually, there are other people in the house who have other names as well. So you all know my brother Eric. And just to give you an idea about what he was like when he was really young, one day he was sobbing, crying hysterically. My father came running over. "What's wrong, Eric? What's wrong?" He was very little at the time. And he said, "I hit my head on the floor." "You hit your head on the floor? How did you do that?" "Like this." And it occurred to me that when my mother needed chores done, she could usually count on Eric to do these. So often she would say, "Would somebody please take up the trash?" A couple of hours later, "Eric, I thought I told you to take up the trash." So Eric was actually somebody. So my brother David, who some of you have met, had a very interesting relationship with Eric. And when he was very young, and when Eric was very young, he wasn't allowed to annoy the baby, even when the baby was really annoying him. And then at one point, he said, "Don't you think he's old enough now that I can give it back to him?" And my parents were like, "Well, we can't really protect him forever, so yeah, I guess you can." So out of the blue, my brother David, very excited, "Eric!" And Eric comes toddling along, "Yeah, wham!" So he got his. And we often would have these family meetings where we would all sit around the table and plan these family events. And David was the only one who was really into this. And one time we were planning this big bike trip. And none of us really were all that interested, except David. He really wanted to go. The morning of the trip comes, we're all dragging our feet. We had to get up early, get all our stuff into the car. And my mother's getting annoyed. She says, "What is it with you? Everybody wanted to go the other day when we planned this." So I realized, David, he's everybody. Now, my mother, many of you have met her. She was actually here last weekend, but most of you didn't know because my mother is an introvert. It's quite interesting that two of the most introverted people I met came up with us. So my mother is not only an introvert, but she's also a lightweight. And what I mean by that is if she smells alcohol, she's done. Well, one day my parents took us all out to this very, very nice restaurant in Maryland. It was called the Kapok Tree Inn. And it was this lovely place where they had these peacocks roaming the grounds, and the waiting area had these old-fashioned sewing machine tables with the levers that you could put your feet on. It was an amazing experience, and my father decided my mother should enjoy a nice little drink. I mean, it was literally this tall, filled with all sorts of fruit and, the type of thing that, all of us could drink 3 of and we'd be fine. My mother, no. It's not long before she starts absolutely slurring her words, and we are enjoying every moment of it. It's not often that my mother is out of control, but this time she's totally done for it. She's getting a little annoyed with us making fun of all of her slurs and all of her difficulty speaking, and she says, "Look, I may be drunk, but I can still do caligus." She was done. In any case, around my house, we started realizing that there was another name for my mother, because if you made a mess in the house, you knew that somebody else would take care of it. She was somebody else. And then there was my father. My father, who is the biggest introvert that I've ever met. He didn't really speak much when he didn't have to. But when he was home and when we were at dinner, that was his time to unload everything that happened in that day. Now, for most of you know, he was the personnel manager, ironically, of the Baltimore Symphony. So he would come home and complain about this musician who is waiting, expecting us to do this for him, and this musician who's getting annoyed with this. And we would hear all of these stories. And then we would go to the symphony and meet these people in person. So one day we met this one trumpet player. And my brother says, "Oh, I know you. My daddy talks about you all the time at the dinner table." So my father's like, "Oh, it's time to go home, guys." But the one thing that we did realize is that he actually was anybody. Because if you were trying to figure out, there were all these lights on in the house and the light was on downstairs, we would often call down, "Is anybody down there?" "Yeah." "Okay, I won't turn the light off." Or, of course, the most important thing of all is, "Anybody want these leftovers?" Thank you.